Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of those rare games that comes out of nowhere and sets social media alight with praise and hype. I had never even heard of it leading up to its release and was suddenly inundated with Twitter users and YouTubers gushing about it, with players calling it the next Final Fantasy or Persona, and boldly declaring a small French development studio had given the JRPG genre a so-called much-needed shake-up, beating Japanese developers at their own, pardon the pun, game. While I don't really agree with that sentiment, being a connoisseur of JRPGs, with it being one of my favourite genres, I am a true believer in the meritocracy that is social media. When enough word of mouth gets around that players themselves champion the game better than its marketing team does, I'm prepared to give a game like this a fair chance. The JRPG genre is uniquely Japanese in its sensibilities and approach to gameplay, and as far as I'm concerned, non-Japanese developers can't really do this genre in the same way its progenitors can. However, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, or, if like me and the development team you speak French, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 really does come close, and does some of its own unique, compelling, and unexpected things. In this review, I'll discuss the story, gameplay, aesthetics, and other sensibilities of this complex and beautiful game, and finally weigh up whether it is worth all the hype and praise it's getting, and if it truly is a non-Japanese JRPG for the ages. With that out of the way, let's jump into it. Allons-y! Taking place in a Belle Époque-style fantasy world, every year a monolithic figure called the Paintress paints a decreasing number in the distant sky. Anyone that age will vanish at the end of the year in a process called gommage. With humanity's time dwindling year by year, after each gommage an expedition is sent out to cross the continent in hopes of slaying the Paintress, and break the cycle of shortening lifespans and increasing death tolls. With the game taking place under the glow of the number 33, you play as the titular Expedition 33, on the march to put a stop to the Paintress once and for all. I won't spoil any of the story in this review, but I was absolutely blown away by the storytelling chops on display here. The universe is rich and layered, the characters well-rounded, and the sweeping epic narrative making for an intense, emotional experience. Right from the prologue, you know you're in for a treat as main character Gustave makes his way around the city of Lumiere, interacting with terrified young people approaching their gommage, ending with the disintegration of his doomed love interest. It's heartbreaking, brilliantly executed, and sets the stage emotionally for what's to come. The story later does go into some unexpected directions and does explore some complex themes. The writing is excellent, and it really is an incredible piece of media. The characters all have outstanding vocal performances by their voice actors, particularly from Ben Starr, best known as Clive in Final Fantasy XVI as Verso, and Jennifer English as Maëlle, who serves as the emotional center of the game. In terms of dialogue and acting, it's as good as any modern JRPG, if not better. I'll come back to how the story is complemented by its visual and audio presentation later in the review, but next I'd like to talk about the most important element of any game, gameplay. While on a surface level, Expedition 33's gameplay looks like a French-themed Persona or early Final Fantasy clone, and while these comparisons are valid, the actual gameplay strays far from its Japanese antecedents. Yes, battles play out in turn, but there are more action elements integrated into them than you might expect. Now, I've always loved Super Mario RPG, especially its playful approach to battles, where a perfectly timed button press on attack grants you extra damage, or on defense mitigates incoming damage. This later got refined in the Paper Mario series, and in the indie gem Sea of Stars. Now it's like Sandfall Interactive saw that and decided to just go nuts with it. Perfectly timed button presses are no longer a bonus here, but integral to survival. Special attacks bring up quick-time event pop-ups that need to be nailed for maximum damage output, and incoming attacks need to be dodged or parried. Later on, a second type of parry is introduced, adding another layer of complexity. For a lot of bosses, perfectly timed parries are required to mitigate their overpowered attacks. In this sense, Expo 33 is a mix of strategy, planning your attacks based on your enemy's affinity and weaknesses, setting up combos, selecting the right move based on the situation you're in, trying to increase your overall number of action points, with action game elements like quick time events and perfect parrying. If those action elements weren't enough, you have the option to shoot a gun during your turn. While shooting a gun in a turn-based RPG is straight out of Persona 5 and seemingly nothing new, it adds a major action twist. You have the ability to free aim during your turn and aim at your opponent's weak spot. Certain status effects disrupt your aim, so the ability to shoot a gun in free aim is indeed straight out of a different genre, requiring a different kind of player skill than just selecting moves. In many places, this is once again essential to survive, where strategy and move planning are not enough. And while these action elements could be alienating to fans of traditional turn-based JRPGs, I actually found them really fun and oh so satisfying to pull off. It takes a while to get used to parrying, and I did find myself frustrated when I couldn't pull them off, but once you figure out the timing, they become an addictive and rewarding part of gameplay. I'll return to this point, but first I'd like to talk more about the strategic elements of the game. There's a lot to get your head around here. Each character has a unique skill set and playstyle, feeling distinctly different to use. Gustave requires you to build up a charge meter to unleash a powerful attack. Lune uses her stains, an elemental icon stacking system, to create elemental combos. Mael alternates between offensive and defensive modes, with bonuses granted for switching. Sael has a complicated card system, and so on. Each character takes a bit of getting used to, and I'd found their tutorials went a bit over my head, but practicing with them, it didn't take long to figure out. And as they leveled up and gained more and more crazy skills, each character's playstyle became more and more rewarding. The variety and playstyle between them is amazing too. They feel very distinct, yet all fun to use in their own ways and complement each other nicely. But the strategic aspects of the game I didn't like as much with the equipable Pictos. There's an overwhelming amount of them, making for near limitless customization, but for me, especially early on, it was a bit much. Once you've had a character master a Picto by using it in battle enough times, it can be permanently equipped without taking up one of the 3 Picto slots using Lumina points. That's really quite a mouthful, I know, and it really did take me until I was halfway through the game to start figuring out useful strategies with them. Pictos and Luminas don't feel as important as nailing perfect parries, especially when the more powerful enemies can one-shot you, often no matter what you have equipped. Perhaps some other players with more intelligence than me can figure out better combinations of weapons and Pictos to maximize damage output, but for me they weren't something I was compelled to experiment with. Especially as the text in the equip menu is so small, I had to squint and yeah, just couldn't be bothered in the early game. But after tinkering around with it, I could see how this would be really satisfying to a lot of players, especially as figuring out the right combination can deal massive damage. In the late game I was starting to come around when I could finally figure out how all the pieces fit together, but it was slow going and yeah, that tiny text man. I'll come back to that interface later. So in terms of battling, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is definitely not the next Final Fantasy or Persona. It takes aspects of those Japanese-made games and mixes them with action elements you might find in Western-developed games like Ghost of Tsushima or Jedi Fallen Order. The result is not a mockery of JRPGs or an action game disguised as one or anything like that. The result is a type of battle gameplay that is fresh, original, and unlike anything I've ever played before. A true East meets West type of gameplay sensibility, integrating the best of both turn-based and action gameplay into an incredibly fun package. A genre hybrid like no other, it was a true joy to experience. While some of the parry windows are tough to get used to and strategic elements a bit overwhelming, it is ultimately a brilliant and unique experience. Hats off to you, Sandfall Interactive. Merci beaucoup. As for exploring the environments, it's very well handled here with few issues. It's just wonderful exploring these handcrafted, painterly, beautiful environments. The only issues I had were getting lost at times because there are no minimaps or objective markers to point you in the right direction. While trying to find my way, I'd get ambushed by enemies that snuck up behind me and that annoyed me a bit, but it comes with the genre. Nothing you guys can't handle, but I wish navigation was made that tad easier. And finally, I was surprised at how content-rich this game is, especially coming from a first-time developer. In addition to the main story, there's a lot on the side, especially after 2/3 of the story. There are extra super bosses, secret areas to seek out, an endless tower challenge with a handful of colosseums and mini-games. With a lot of developers and publishers often putting out endless challenges and colosseums as DLC, I was delighted to see they're all here in the base game. Expo 33 is a content-rich experience, and great value for money in this sense. If DLC is ever made for it, I'll of course pick it up on day one, but I feel like it's not needed. With the purchase of this game, you are getting a complete package, rarer to see these days. So to wrap up the gameplay section, I had an incredible time with this game. I'd love to play it again someday. There's nothing quite like pairing a well thought out battle strategy with a perfect parry to take out a challenging boss. A gameplay experience like no other, with a plentiful variety of content to enjoy, wrapped up in a gorgeous visual presentation. So next, I'd like to give some thoughts on the overall aesthetics and presentation of this game. On a surface level, we can see how the battle interface is inspired by the Persona series with its stylish and non-symmetrical design. It's a nice homage and it works well. However, the equip menu interface takes after Final Fantasy XVI, and like that game, the text is way too small, and I really hate this trend in gaming. Maybe it's just me getting older and being a couch gamer on a moderately sized TV, but not everybody has a massive TV or a monitor right in front of their face. It made customizing my equips a bit painful. Not a deal breaker, but certainly a source of irritation. An option to increase the font size would go a long way here. Besides that, the presentation of Expedition 33 is nothing short of stellar, and this is where comparisons to JRPGs should end. Sandfall Interactive clearly took inspiration from their surrounding French environment to inject their game with an art style and sensibility that is totally unique and culturally entirely separate from this game's JRPG forebearers. While Persona and Final Fantasy take inspiration from Japan's long-standing creative traditions, ukiyo-e paintings, manga, and anime, Expo 33 takes its inspiration from long-standing French ones, Renaissance paintings, classical literature, black and white silent films. Instead of opting for hyper-realistic motion-captured humans, they've got slightly enlarged heads, in homage to France's long history of puppetry and marionettes. That might just be my interpretation of these character designs, but I absolutely adore how they've been stylized. While in the gameplay section I discussed that battling is like an East meets West fusion of turn-based battles and action, this art style is wholly unique, and wears its Frenchness proudly as a badge of honor. This is where we can stop making comparisons to JRPGs entirely. Its aesthetics are proudly its own. This is what I'd like to see more of in the future. Passionate teams coming up with creative art styles influenced by their own different cultural backgrounds and traditions, birthing something that's never been done before. It's proof that with creative passion, game devs are well and truly not running out of ideas, and that there's plenty to be done in the medium instead of just playing it safe and copying what else has worked. Instead of calling it a JRPG, I'm giving Clair Obscur Expedition 33 the genre moniker of FRPG, French role-playing game. And just a bit more about those characters, I'm so glad they went with an art style that is entirely unique. Once again, here's proof that art style trumps realism. We have all the technology in the world to do so-called realistic motion capture, but often such games just give off a Polar Express vibe, so it's not needed at all. And as for the music, just wow. Like its art style, wholly unique, wholly French, and some of the best music I've heard in a while. Thankfully, it's already out on streaming services, so I'll be listening to it for some time. Marrying synths, string sections, electric guitars, and choral verses, it bounces around between epic and subtle and everything in between. Huge shout out to Lorien Testard, who was not but a SoundCloud musician before getting the offer to work on this game. Proof that when creative people work together and are given a shot, magic can happen. To summarize what I'm trying to say here, while the presentation of this game is absolutely brilliant, pretty, and appealing on all levels, I can't state how important this is for the industry. Games that are birthed out of creative spirit and passion will always beat those made to chase profitable trends. Visually and audibly, Expo 33 is one for the ages. Alright, time to wrap this all up. So, is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 worth the hype it's getting? Absolutely, yes. Yes it is. It's easily the best game I've played so far in 2025, and is proof that a creative and unique game from a small studio will light up social media, and such praise is warranted. The masses spoke, I listened, I had a great time, and so will you. Next, is it the next Final Fantasy? No it isn't. That comparison is unwarranted in my opinion. While there are some similarities, Clair Obscur Expedition 33's art style, story, battle system, and presentation are entirely its own. While it may take some inspiration from Final Fantasy and Persona, it is a fresh, unique, and original take on the JRPG genre that hybridizes elements from action games to create something that's never been done before. It stands proudly apart from its Japanese ancestors, and that is absolutely a good thing. To conclude, I had an incredible time with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Bridging the gap between turn-based JRPGs and action games, infusing it proudly with French culture and design sensibility, and wrapping it up with an emotional story supported by outstanding voice acting and music, it truly is the complete package, and a stunning debut from Sandfall Interactive. A purchase and playthrough of this game is a vote in favour for the creative future of the video game medium, and I'm so glad to have done exactly that. An artistic triumph for the ages, and not to be missed by anyone interested in video games. So, thanks for watching until the end. Over to you. Have you played Clair Obscur Expedition 33? How does it compare to your favourite RPGs? Whatever your thoughts, let me know in the comments down below. With the Switch 2 just days away, I'm getting the channel back into high gear, so like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir.